Funded by WDEV and the Radio Vermont Group. We welcome listener feedback. Email your comments to wdev@radiovermont.com.
The energy. The guy told me I was no spring chicken anymore, and that's why my ankle was still hurting. I'm 33, not 133. The passion. The Red Sox handling of Xander Bogaerts is a complete organizational failure. The opinions on all your favorite teams. No, not this year, but it's next year where Bill Belichick ends up on the hot seat. This is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com. What's up, everybody? Brady Farkas Show here, back at it again on a Thursday on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. We go up until 6:45 tonight. That it's high school basketball, girls hoops between Montpelier and People's Academy. Brent Curtis will be on the call there. I do want to remind everybody, kind of a quick programming note, that next week, I should say, is Super Bowl week. Traditionally, I have gone to Radio Row at the Super Bowl. I've done that with other stations I've been a part of. I've gone to 4 different Super Bowl Radio Rows. And the goal of Radio Row is to talk to as many big-name guests as you can. Sometimes they're related to football. Sometimes they're related to the Super Bowl. And sometimes they're not. This year, I am not going to Radio Row in Glendale. I'm bringing Radio Row to you. So next week, on the show, that's when I kind of empty my contact list, and I'm trying to bring on as many big guests as I can, right? We'll be coming out of the NHL All-Star break. We're kind of headed towards the NBA All-Star break. We haven't hit spring training just yet. So next week it's not a dead week, but there's not as much going on actual sports-wise, it feels like. So it's our chance to empty the contact list. Next week will be our Radio Row at home once again. So just have that kind of ready for next week. Buster Olney of ESPN will stop by with us here at 5:45. We're closing in on spring training. Wild take on Tom Brady from some guy at WEEI. Plenty to get to. You can get in on the Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line. That's 802-585-3026. Your locally owned Napa stores in Waterbury and Morrisville. And you can also, again, text in 802-585-3026. Also, you can watch us on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and my Twitter account.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And here we go.
The opening thoughts on the Brady Farkas Show are brought to you by Sticks and Stuff and by Swanton Lumber. They are Vermont's most complete, locally owned home center with locations in Enosburg, Derby, Middlesex, St. Albans, and at Swanton Lumber. They're online at sticksandstuff.com. The Tom Brady retirement news really does have a drastic impact on the upcoming quarterback market. It's actually really fascinating to see just how big the ripple effect is off of this one Tom Brady decision. You start to look at this, there's a lot that's going to happen just because Brady is now off the board. Like, start tugging at those threads and you'll see the quarterback carousel unravel. It's fascinating. If you are the Packers and you want to trade Aaron Rodgers, the price just went up, right? There are teams that want not just a quarterback, they want a premium quarterback. There are teams that wanted Tom Brady. And now that Tom Brady's not there, there is one less premium quarterback, and the premium quarterback that's available is Aaron Rodgers. Well, guess what? The price to get him just went up. With Brady's retirement, the Packers now have more leverage. If San Francisco wants him, even though Rodgers says he's not going there, if the Jets want him, if Vegas wants him, the price just went up. Right? The price just went up. How about what happens with Minnesota now? Right? Kirk Cousins won a bunch of games, got the Vikings to the playoffs. The Vikings very well, I follow the people in Minnesota, they very well could want out from his contract. Well, guess what? Now, let's just play this game out. Okay? Brady can't go to San Fran. Rodgers says he's not going to San Fran. So Rodgers goes to Vegas, and San Fran says, all right, we need a quarterback. And we need a good quarterback, a quarterback that can win a Super Bowl. Do they call Minnesota? And do they want Kirk Cousins? And now that's happened. Now Minnesota needs a quarterback. Now where's Derek Carr going to go? Now, if Rodgers leaves Green Bay, then Green Bay needs a quarterback. There is so much that has happened just based on the Tom Brady retirement decision. The price goes up for a premium quarterback like Rodgers. There's a chance now that Kirk Cousins gets on the market. Maybe a team starts going after him. I would say the pure free agent like Jimmy Garoppolo, he just made himself more money out of this because there's one less competitor. Geno Smith, Daniel Jones, these guys that are on their teams already, I would say their price just went up. If you're the Seahawks and you want to keep Geno Smith, well, now Geno's agent goes, hey, there's one less quarterback available. Now, my client now costs $5 million more. Daniel Jones probably does the exact same thing. There are as many as 14 probably different teams that could need quarterbacks next year. And now there is one less quarterback available. And the shuffling and the dominoes and the money and the draft picks that will be traded all just got altered because of that one decision. 14 teams could need quarterbacks. That is outstanding. That is unbelievable. Now, I don't think that all 14 are going to end up with new quarterbacks, but the market now has changed because Brady is gone, right? Let's look at who needs a quarterback for sure. Vegas needs a quarterback, 1,000%. They're moving on from Derek Carr. They've said it. He said it. It's happening. Vegas needs a quarterback. Well, Tom Brady was a fit there. Now where do they pivot? They want an upgrade from Derek Carr. There's not that many upgrades from Carr available. Right? How many people are really available that are a clear upgrade over Derek Carr? I would say one, Aaron Rodgers. And the Packers now can use that to their advantage. And they can rake the Raiders over the coals as far as I'm concerned. All right, so if Rodgers goes to Vegas, well, now the Jets need a quarterback, right? They're desperate for a quarterback. They've said they want a veteran. They've said they will pay, and they are desperate. Brady's gone. Rodgers is gone. Who are they getting? Are they calling about Kirk Cousins? Are they the ones that are going to go get Derek Carr? Possibly. I would say Carr is the likely one. Then what does San Francisco decide? They've got a roster that's built to win the Super Bowl. Do they think that Brock Purdy with no offseason program can help them win the Super Bowl? Do they think that Trey Lance, who's barely played football in the last 3 years, can help them win the Super Bowl? I don't know. But if they don't think that, then maybe they call about Kirk Cousins, as I said. Maybe they think Ryan Tannehill can help them do that. Maybe they want to steal Geno Smith or Daniel Jones, and they think that they can help them do that. And then Seattle needs a quarterback, and the Giants could need a quarterback. There is a lot that can go on here. Some of these guys could be franchise tagged, and that could knock them out. Now there's even less competition. Now there's even less quarterbacks available. So the ones that are there, well, then the money goes up on them. This is going to be fascinating to see play out. And then there are other guys that we don't think highly of. Where does Sam Darnold end up? Where does Jameis Winston end up? Where does Baker Mayfield end up? If Geno Smith and Daniel Jones stay with their respective teams, does Darnold get a starting job? Does Baker get a starting job? Are these guys stopgap quarterbacks? I'll be fascinated to see what happens. Where does Jimmy Garoppolo go? Tampa needs a quarterback now. They wanted Tom Brady back. Well, Brady's not coming back. So who do they go after? This quarterback carousel is insane, all because of this one move. And Keyshawn Johnson of ESPN Radio agrees with me.
This whole Brady thing kind of messed up the quarterback landscape, in my opinion, by him retiring, because teams have very little options at the quarterback position in terms of quarterback that they need for their team, right?
Mm-hmm.
This affects what the New York Giants want to do with Daniel Jones,
what
the Raiders want to do now all
His
of a
price
sudden
went up.
with Carr. It may affect what Green Bay process thinking is in terms of Love and Rodgers. So it's a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, a whole bunch of stuff. is going down because of this one decision. Text line 802-585-3026. Matt in St. Albans Town. Which team do you think is most interesting in the quarterback market? Well, I have two teams that I think are very interesting. I assume you wanted just one, but I've got two. One is the New York Jets, right? They're interesting because they have that desperation about them. The Jets have the defense. They have the playmakers on offense. They have the ability to get to playoff caliber rather quickly. They cannot do it with Zach Wilson. So they need a quarterback. They reek of desperation. So they are interesting to me. Do they go after Rodgers? Do they go after Carr? Do they go after Jimmy Garoppolo? Do they try to trade for Tannehill? What exactly do they try to do? Also, they're in the division with the Patriots. So I'm interested in ultimately what they decide, because what they decide impacts New England. They're very clearly making a move. The other thing is, the other team that I'm interested in is the 49ers. They are Super Bowl ready. They have a Super Bowl caliber coach, Super Bowl caliber stars. They've got guys under contract. They can run it back next year and be excellent, and they've got a winnable division again. The 49ers, they are a quarterback away. They just have to decide if Brock Purdy or Trey Lance can be that quarterback, or if they need to go out and take a swing. And if they take a swing, Rodgers, even though he says he's not going there, do they go after him? Do they go after Carr? We'll see. Cousins. But there are a lot of moving pieces here. Now, Joe says on the text line, I think Rodgers ends up in Tennessee. Jimmy G goes to the Jets, and Derek Carr goes to Miami. I do not think Carr goes to Miami because I think they're committed to Tua, and even if they weren't, I don't think they're paying, $40 million guaranteed for Derek Carr. So I don't think he's going there. Rodgers could end up in Tennessee. That could happen. Tennessee very easily could move on from Ryan Tannehill. The whole NFC South needs quarterbacks, right? Like, look at the teams that could need a quarterback. This is just could. It's not definite, right? In the NFC, the Giants could need a quarterback, depending on what happens with Jones. Washington could need a quarterback. They have Sam Howell. They could need a quarterback. So that's two in the NFC. The whole NFC South needs one. That's 6. Seattle could need one, depending on what happens with Geno. That's 7. San Francisco could need one. That's 8. Green Bay could need one. That's 9. Minnesota could need one if they move off Cousins. It's unlikely, but that's 10. In the AFC, the Jets need one. That's 11. The AFC South, Tennessee could need one. That's 12. Houston needs one. That's 13. Indy needs one. That's 14. Vegas could need one. That's 15. And then in the AFC North, they're all probably set. So 15 teams, nearly half the league, could need a quarterback. Marcus over in Sheldon, where do you think Jimmy G ends up? I don't know. But I think Jimmy G goes somewhere where he's a starter, right? It's very clear. Jimmy Garoppolo will be a starter next year. The question is he viewed as a starter who's a stopgap like Mitch Trubisky, keeping the seat warm for some kid? Or is he viewed as some team's solution to their problem? I think it's more likely the latter. I think Jimmy Garoppolo goes somewhere, and Jimmy Garoppolo plays and plays a lot, and he's viewed as the guy. I don't think it's a Trubisky situation with him. I don't think this is going to be, hey, we drafted a guy number 10 overall. You're going to play 4 games, and when you're 2-2, you're going to get pulled. I don't think that's the case. Jimmy Garoppolo, to me, is a starter, and he goes somewhere where he plays. I could see any team in the NFC South going after Jimmy Garoppolo, right? They all think they're playoff teams. Based on how bad the division is, they all think they're playoff teams. He could go to Atlanta. He could go to Carolina. He could go to New Orleans. He could go to Tampa. I could see any of them. I could see the Jets, although I think that would be at the bottom of their list. I could see Vegas. He's not really an upgrade from Derek Carr, but if Rodgers falls through for them and Josh McDaniels wants to pivot to another guy that he knows, I could see that. So I could see Jimmy Garoppolo going a lot of different places, but I think that he is going somewhere where he plays and where he's the guy. I don't think he goes to Houston and just keeps the seat warm for C.J. Stroud or for Bryce Young. That I don't see. I think he absolutely goes somewhere and plays. It is the Brady Farkas Show here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Let's pivot to a little baseball now. I've got Buster Olney lighting up my phone lines here. Hard to believe we are less than 2 weeks away from spring training beginning.
All the insight into everything going on in baseball. It's time for our weekly conversation with ESPN baseball insider and Vermont native, Buster Olney.
I'm just about ready to bet the family farm in Vermont.
On the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
All right, we do have Buster Olney, our ESPN MLB insider, with us. Again, less than 2 weeks away from spring training. Buster, I'm getting excited. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing okay, but I have a confession for you, okay? Which is either going to make you fired up or it's going to make you really nervous. And that
you didn't pick the Mariners to win the World Series, did you?
I'm thinking about it. It's in the realm of conversation. I'm looking at their roster. I'm looking at, the depth that they have, especially in the pitching staff, and I'm kind of wondering, you know what, do I go out of the box and do I do like a Mariners-Padres World Series pick, that sort of thing? I think I tried it back in 2016, and they finished out of the playoffs by like 20 games. Yeah,
so you're right. You're definitely making me nervous. And I also would say I appreciate that, but on a serious note, the depth of the American League looks very, very good this year, Buster. I mean, we've talked so much about tanking the last several years. I think I can sit here and only say that I can only profile two teams in the American League to be really bad, and that would be the Royals and the A's. And I think there's a lot of depth in the AL.
Yeah, and I think the Royals actually turn out to be better than what people expect. Oakland is definitely tanking. But division by division, you like the fact that so many teams are trying to win. And it does make it hard for the Red Sox in 2023. But, you got the Yankees and you have the Rays are always good. You have the Blue Jays, the Guardians, a young up-and-coming team that won the division last year. And being a fan of the Mariners, the American League West is absolutely stacked. So as good as I think the Mariners are going to be, they got to get through the Astros. The Rangers are better. I think the Angels are going to be better. Could be a fun year.
How does the balanced schedule change things this year across the board? If people don't remember, you used to play 19 games against all your divisional opponents. That was 76 total games against your division. Now it's 52 when you're going to see everybody in the other league. How does that affect everything this year?
Yeah, and I think statistically probably there probably is not going to be a big impact, but I would say this, the opportunities for teams that dig a big hole earlier in the year in the division, the opportunities to catch up to a first-place team are not going to be as voluminous as they've been in the past because you're just not going to have as many games. And so that, it used to be that, you might see, 4 series in the second half between division rivals. That's not going to happen anymore.
From a fan perspective, how much better is the balanced schedule? I'm thinking of, the Red Sox getting a chance to see Fernando Tatis Jr. and these Padres come to Fenway, every other year, and seeing Mookie Betts come back every other year and Bryce Harper. This seems like it's better overall for the fans of baseball.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm buying that. Because in the end, yeah, you're right. It's great for the Padres to come into town, but if you're the Red Sox to potentially more games against the Marlins, is that really a good thing? I do think that I personally like the schedule the way that it was. I thought it was unfair for teams like the Tampa Bay Rays to have to play other American League East teams constantly. But as you know, the Rays kind of turned that into a strength.
Yeah.
Like that organization played with confidence against the Yankees and the Red Sox. I like the fact that teams within the division play each other a ton. I'm not a fan of the New Balance schedule.
My last question on that is that I'm guilty of not having the schedule in front of me right now, but I'm wondering about how it's done from a travel perspective. In that, okay, the Red Sox have to go out west every year to do the Angels, Mariners, and A's trip. Will they also have to go the same year to do a Padres, Dodgers, Diamondbacks trip, or is it going to be flipped every other?
I haven't dug into it that closely to get through it. I think you and I both know that if you're looking for consistent thought and application, it's just not going to be there.
Fair enough.
The Mariners know this. I can remember so many, trips that, like the Red Sox going out the West Coast. There have been times when it's drop into Anaheim for 3 games, then play Atlanta the next day, series after that. It doesn't. There are many situations where it doesn't make sense, and I think we'll probably see some of that again this year.
Buster Olney, ESPN MLB Insider, with us here on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Looking at the Red Sox, but also looking at a guy who was on the Red Sox last year and was pretty good, is Michael Wacha. Why is he not signed yet by anybody? And with the Red Sox concerns about their rotation, why aren't they calling him again?
Yeah, I suspect, and I don't know for sure, that, coming off the last season, that he probably is looking to cash in. He's been a consistent pitcher. Someone, this, when the Tampa Bay Rays identified him a couple of years ago, that probably gave you a sign that, they see something in him. But his injury history is daunting. There's no doubt about it. And so I think there probably is separation between his expectations at his next contract, his agent's expectations versus what teams are willing to pay a guy with that long injury history. I do think it's smart at this point for him to wait, because and I know in spring training somebody's going to lose a starting pitcher, probably in the World Baseball Classic, and they're going to be scrambling for somebody, and that'll probably give Michael a better chance to get what he's looking for. He's a great pro.
What's the timing on some of the World Baseball Classic stuff? Tom Caron was telling us yesterday, Kenley Jansen is playing for the Netherlands, and they're going to open up their World Baseball Classic in Taiwan. So it's almost like he's going to report to spring training and then almost immediately have to leave. What is the timing like on losing some of your players?
Yeah, and that's going to be the case for all teams. They're going to have players leave immediately. Today I was talking with Rob Thompson, the manager of the Phillies, and he mentioned, it'd be great having Trey Turner at the beginning of spring training, and then he's going to leave right away. I would say this, the way teams view this, I think they're more at peace with it privately than they were a decade ago when they hated to see their guys leave. And you and I know this as well. The team that sees a player get injured in the WBC, which is inevitable, because if you have games, players are going to get hurt. It's going to drive them crazy. And it does, there's no doubt, as these guys go through the game, the folks who work for their parent teams, the teams that they're under contract for, they sit there with their fingers crossed, their toes crossed. They don't really care how they do. They don't really care, if they have success. They just want them to get through it healthy. And that it's going to be something everybody's going to be watching for as it plays out.
Vegas over under on the Red Sox win total 76.5. You going higher or lower?
I don't have a gut feel on that. I think that's probably right in the range.
Yeah. That's why Vegas does their job well.
Right, exactly. And there are times when, we've had the, bet the family farm on the over-unders and because some jump out. Like a couple of years ago, they had the Orioles at 60.5, and I was like, man, bet everything on the under. And they, I was right in that case. I've been wrong in other cases. But on the Red Sox, if I were to, if you held a gun to my head and said, look, you got to take the over or the under, I'd take the under, and here's why. And you and I have talked about this. If they struggle in the first 3 or 4 months, I think because of the nature of the players on their team, the contract situation, I think they'll be poised to pivot relatively quickly. For example, let's say that they struggled and Alex Verdugo was okay in the first half of the season. I could see the Red Sox pivoting quickly on him and saying, look, he's someone who has value in the marketplace. He's, a good defender. He puts the ball in play. Maybe there's some question as to whether or not if he doesn't hit really well, he's reaching a tipping point in his value in the marketplace, maybe you take advantage of that. Maybe a Justin Turner, maybe a Kenley Jansen if you struggle in the first half. Those guys potentially could have some value. That obviously would mean that the second half would be, the last 2 months would be more challenging for the Red Sox after the deadline.
Buster, has been kind of a concerning trend here with the Red Sox. We've talked about them stockpiling prospects. Well, look, some of the guys they got in the Benintendi deal haven't really worked out. Josh Minkowski doesn't look particularly good. The Jeter Downs was already DFA'd. Frank German, who they got in the Ottavino deal, they just DFA'd him. So it's one thing to stockpile prospects, but if you're then forced to DFA them just a few years later, that doesn't say much for either your eye for talent or your ability to develop it.
I agree with you. There's some organizations that are great at getting prospects and trades. I don't think there's any doubt that the best team in recent years has been the Cleveland Guardians. It always feels like whoever they trade for, that player winds up having value. And I do think that, when Chaim Bloom gets a lot of criticism for the Mookie Betts trade, and I know that he came in basically being forced to make that deal. I mean, that was a requirement of him accepting that job, that he was going to have to flip Mookie at some point. It was the wrong time to trade Mookie in terms of trying to get maximum value. So, some of that criticism is overblown. But the fact is, as you just laid out, the return on some of these trades, it just hasn't panned out. I do wonder, because I've heard from folks with other teams, they don't think that the Red Sox do as much in-person scouting as many other organizations. Maybe that's something they should rethink, because I do feel like that in some of these deals, when they get prospects in return, those guys are just not panning out.
Buster, I'll get you out of here on this. Tom Brady announced his retirement yesterday, and I think about it. I've been watching football with Tom Brady since I was 10 years old. I remember football before Tom Brady, but not that much. And now, kind of from this day forward, however I watch football is going to feel a little bit different. Was there a guy in baseball who you grew up watching and that when he walked away, you're like, you know what? It's going to be different from this point forward?
Boy, Cal Ripken, I think, to some degree, because he was around for a long time. He had such a big impact. That definitely won. Jim Cott was somebody who, when I first started covering baseball, he was in the middle of his career. And by the time, Jim actually stopped pitching, I was covering it. And it seemed that seemed incredible to me. And I will tell you this, like for me, it was an eye opener when I got to meet Reggie Jackson in person for the first time, because he had always been sort of my villain as a Dodger fan growing up in Central Vermont. Actually having conversations with him, it was like, boy, oh boy. And if you meet Reggie today, he seems exactly the same person who we saw, hitting home runs and bat flipping in the mid-70s.
Buster Olney, ESPN MLB Insider. Buster, next week you have to have your Super Bowl prediction for us, and then we'll be off to spring training. We'll talk to you then.
Okay, I'll definitely give you some quiet. You'd rather have me predict the Super Bowl than the Mariners winning the World Series.
100%. Buster,
Brady.
Talk next week. Oh, yes, we will talk next week. Buster Olney, our ESPN MLB Insider. Good stuff from Buster as always. And on the other side of CBS News, I want to react to some of what Buster had to say, particularly about the unbalanced schedule, because a lot of what Buster said actually runs contrary to what I think. Like, I like the unbalanced schedule for a lot of reasons. Buster seems completely against it. So I want to know how you feel about it. I want to react to some of what Buster had to say. And also, I don't want to be Scrooge, but Groundhog Day, I'm not even sure I know exactly what it is, to be honest with you. Why do we care about it? Why am I supposed to care about it? I'll have you try to tell me that next too, because I'm frankly just not getting it. I'll rant on Groundhog's Day, and then we'll talk about what Buster had to say. We'll do it next here on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, WDEVradio.com, always streaming for free on the WDEV radio app.
This is WDEV, Vermont's news station, owned and operated by the Radio Vermont Group. From the top of Sugarbush, 96.1 FM, WDEV Warren and Waitsfield, 96.5 W243 Barrie, 98.3 W252 CU Montpelier, along with our founding station, AM 550 WDEV Waterbury Montpelier, streaming at WDEVradio.com. 91 years of serving Vermont, the friendly pioneer, WDEV.
This is CBS News on the Hour, your home for original reporting.
I'm Monica Ricks in New York. The same deadly system that's caused chaos this week in the South is now headed northeast. WBZ Radio's James Rojas is in Boston.
The emergency declaration comes as we're looking at some extreme cold weather with wind chills below zero starting Friday and cold air lasting through Sunday.
Staying inside, for sure, staying indoors.
I feel like I want to stay inside this weekend instead of doing any outdoor sports because too cold for that too.
Any errands we're running, it's in a very small radius of home.
James Rojas for CBS News, Boston.
In Washington, President Biden's meeting with the Congressional Black Caucus. They're discussing police reform in the wake of Tyree Nichols' death in Memphis.
From my perspective is how can we make some progress on police reform of consequence and violence in our communities.
Congressional talks fell apart after George Floyd's death. A councilwoman was shot and killed outside of her home in New Jersey last night. WCBS TV's Christine Sloan is there.
There was 2 sets of 4 shots, pop, pop, pop. Pop, 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 and they saw somebody running into the woods.
Neighbors in this tight-knit community heard the gunshots. Investigators say 30-year-old Republican Sayreville councilwoman Eunice Jumfor was shot and killed in her car Wednesday night outside her home.
Where the bullet casings were, that was up the street. Where the car ended up was about a good 50 feet down, and it crashed into the parked cars.
Police are still searching for a shooter. We're hearing the terrifying 911 calls out of Monterey Park, California, where 11 people were murdered last month.
Somebody using a gun shooting people inside the studio. So we just came out.
This happened on the Chinese New Year. The 72-year-old gunman later killed himself. The Pentagon's now tracking a suspected Chinese surveillance balloon that's been spotted over U.S. airspace.
The White House says the president asked the top brass for options and received a strong recommendation from Pentagon officials that the balloon not be shot down because of the risks that might be posed to those on the ground. We're told it's the sense of U.S. officials that the balloon has limited value from an intelligence collection perspective and that the U.S. is now gaining insights as it tracks the balloon.
CBS's Stephen Portnoy. The Republican-led House has removed Minnesota Democrat Ilhan Omar from its Foreign Affairs Committee, citing anti-Israel comments. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy.
She said the American military was equal to Hamas and to Taliban from a member of the Foreign Affairs. She said Americans only like Israel because it's all about the Benjamin.
Democrats say the GOP is targeting Omar over her race. And health officials want people to stop using over-the-counter drops called EsriCare Artificial Tears. It's linked to an outbreak of infections in at least 55 people in 12 states and 1 death. This is CBS News.
You want to go someplace new? Yeah, you do.
Just follow me. I'll lead the way.
Welcome to CBS Mornings.
See something new.
Oh, my God. That was a good moment. Learn something new. This is my first virtual reality interview.
Meet someone new. Like me. Nate B in the house. What?
There's always something new under the sun.
I came to shine because you guys are shining this morning.
CBS Mornings, weekdays on CBS.
I'm Nora O'Donnell in the nation's capital.
The CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell, bringing understanding.
Mr. President, there's a lot to talk about.
A lot to talk about.
With facts first.
Is this a national emergency?
Unbiased reporting.
Do you think she was afraid to report what happened in Afghanistan?
Yes, ma'am.
You put your life on the line. Why do you do it?
I just love being out there, making sense of our world.
Do you think there's something about the pandemic that unites us all?
The CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell, weeknights on CBS.
Grammy newbies will shine this Sunday. Here's CBS contributor Dana Cortez.
The race is wide open this year for the Grammy's Best New Artist Award. Brazilian singer Anitta, Omar Apollo, and Domi and J.D. Beck are all nominated. Money Long, who's actually written many songs for other Grammy-winning artists, is up for the award. American jazz singer Samara Joy and Georgia rapper Lotto are all on the list. So is Italian rock band Måneskin. Toby Nwigwe is also on the list, along with bluegrass artist Molly Tuttle. And finally, British rock band Wet Leg rounds out this year's nominees for the Grammy's Best New Artist Award.
A new study ranks the nation's top 10 most dangerous beaches, and 7 of them are in Florida. The most dangerous? That's New Smyrna Beach. Travel Lens ranked them by the number of drownings and shark attacks since 2010 and the number of hurricanes that have hit over centuries. Cocoa Beach was a close second. Monica Ricks, CBS News.
The Brady Farkas Show now has an interactive text line, so reach out now at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show right here on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. Reminder, when the show is over, all of our full interviews and our Buster Olney interview and all of our full show will be available on our podcast channel on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and WDEVradio.com. High school basketball comes up in 40 minutes. Girls hoops between Montpelier and People's Academy. I'm going to react to what Buster had to say momentarily. We're getting the crew a chance to cut everything up for us. But I got to say this. Day, I don't know, Groundhog Day, Groundhog's Day. Don't you know? It's got to be one of the dumbest things out there. I'm sorry, but I don't want to be Scrooge. I'm the only one who feels this way. But if anybody else finds this as dumb as I do, I don't even know if it's Groundhog Day or Groundhog Day. What are we doing? I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I'm 33 years old. I don't even think I get the concept. Really, I don't even think I understand what's going on here. People in Pennsylvania who dress up like 19th century people with top hats, but they go out to some field and they can guarantee this tiny animal coming out of some hole and you can examine which way it looks, and this is what we're basing the weather on? And people are buying into this. This is laughable to me. Why do we do this? This is 2023, 1883. I have no idea why this is a thing. Now, I get that small towns have kind of things that other people think are stupid. I embrace those things. So if small towns have little things, and little parades, and little ceremonies, things that mean something to them, I'm all for it. That helps make America great. A collection of small towns. That's awesome. This is a nationwide sham. This is a worldwide sham. People are, I don't even barely know what a groundhog is. Is it a bird? Is it a witch? Is it a badger? Is it even an animal? I don't even have any idea. And newsflash, we live in New England. We live in Northern New England. We're getting 6 weeks of winter, whether Puxatawny, where we're at now, sees this shadow ordinance. And this is going to be 28 again on the 1st of May. That's how this is going to go. I don't need a woodchuck or a groundhog or a badger to tell me that. It's going to be cold in February. It's going to be cold in March. We're going to get a couple of random warm days. Everyone's going to be happy and drink beer in their, on their stoop. And then it's going to be 21 again. This is absurd to me. I don't get it. Every year, people are like, February 2nd, let's see if the groundhog saw a shadow. Who cares? Who cares? Who knows? These people in the top hats with the Abe Lincoln type beards go out to some field, find a groundhog and say, hey, look back. Did he look back and see a shot? I don't know. I don't get it. Frankly, I said this, I don't think I care to get it. I don't think I want to get it. Is that wrong of me? 802-585-3026. I don't care, and I don't want to care. I did find it cool to see the news story today that a elementary school in White River Junction has a hedgehog day where the hedgehog does the temperature. That's kind of cool. It's different, and they're elementary school kids. At 33 years old, I don't need to care about Puxatani Tom or whatever his name is. One texter has sent in like 100 messages to me and says, it's Groundhog Day. You wouldn't get it. You're not a native Vermonter. So they say with the area code that's not 802. I'm not the native Vermonter. Then they tell me it's a woodchuck. Maybe. Your guess is as good as mine. I Wikipedia'd a little bit of Groundhog Day today and found out that in Europe it used to be badgers. As far as I'm concerned, this thing could have stayed in Europe. Like, I don't need Groundhog Day. I think Groundhog Day, I gotta even see, I'm not convinced that it's not Groundhog's Day. No, it is Groundhog Day. I think Groundhog Day gets a spot on the calendar. Hold on, we got a calendar in here. Let's see. February 2nd, it actually says Groundhog Day on the calendar. Why? Why are we doing this? I don't know. There's a better way to do the weather. It's called, we live in New England. It's going to be cold and dreary until at least May 1st, and then probably beyond that. Then it will get nice, and then in the middle of June, it will randomly be a high of 47. That's what happens. We live in Vermont. All right. The crew's got the Buster Olney interview cut up, so thank you very much. But 802-585-3026. Brent Curtis giving me an update. A halftime. They are at halftime right now of the JV game, so that's good. Text says there's no such thing as a hedgehog in Vermont. Well, I've actually seen at animal rescues there are hedgehogs, so hedgehogs do exist in the state of Vermont. So there you go. All right, we've got high school hoops coming up again at 6:45. Brent tells me we're on schedule for that, so that's good. I'm done ranting about Groundhog Day, whatever. Now I want to talk to you about Buster Olney. Major League Baseball has a new balanced schedule in 2023. I like it. Buster says he does not.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm buying that. Because in the end, yeah, you're right. It's great for the Padres to come into town, but if you're the Red Sox to potentially more games against the Marlins, is that really a good thing? I do think that I personally like the schedule the way that it was. I thought it was unfair for teams like the Tampa Bay Rays to have to play other American League East teams constantly. But as you know, the Rays kind of turned that into a strength.
Yeah.
Like that organization played with confidence against the Yankees and the Red Sox. I like the fact that teams within the division play each other a ton. I'm not a fan of the new balance schedule.
Okay. I think the new balance schedule is good for baseball. That I've been saying that for months since we heard about it. Main reason is I think it's good for fans of the game in that you are introducing the stars of the game to every fan base every year. I think that's important. We talk about baseball and people will tell me, oh, baseball's a dying sport. And oh, baseball doesn't have a young enough fan base and young people don't like baseball. Well, you know what? The best way to grow the sport, the best way to get young people into the sport, I think is to show the sport off and to show off the entirety of the sport. Now the Red Sox every year are going to play the Dodgers. And young people will see Mookie Betts and will see Walker Buehler. That's a good thing, right? That's a good thing. Every year, the Diamondbacks will play the Yankees and people will see Aaron Judge. And they will see Carlos Rodon. And Julio Rodriguez will play for the Mariners every year against the Braves, and people in Atlanta will get to see Julio every year. And Cabrian Hayes, who plays for the Pirates, every year people at Fenway will get to see him. That is good to me, right? You want to create stars in baseball? Well, guess what? Don't have such a segmented game where you don't get to see everybody every year, right? You don't get to see everybody every year. You could create more rivalries in baseball now. That's good for fans. Right? We know Yankees, Mets, Dodgers, Angels. That you have your, quote, natural rival. I get it. But now you're going to play somebody every year. You get a chance to create some more rivalries. And I think that's important, and that's good for the fans. You want to grow the sport. You want the sport healthy. Well, let everybody see everybody. I'm not a fan of seeing Bryce Harper once every 3 years. Now I get to see him every year. I'm not a fan. Mike Trout now gets to go play in Philly. He gets to go play in Miami. He gets to go play in Atlanta. And people who never got to see him now will see him every single year. I think that's a good thing. I also think it's good because when you're now playing 24 less games in your division, you now do not have as a great a chance of getting buried in your division. Look at the Red Sox. The Red Sox are very clearly not at the top of their division. Well, 24 less games against the Orioles, Yankees, Blue Jays, and Rays sounds like a good thing to me, does it not? For years, right, as a Mariners fan, 24 less games against the Astros and the Rangers and the Angels would have been a great thing. Right? The worst part about baseball is that the season can be over for you in April. Especially if you're one of the bottom feeders in your division, it will be over for you in April. At least now you replace those games with from the teams that pummel you against teams you have a chance to beat. You look at the Red Sox, right? Less games against the Yankees, Rays, Blue Jays. That's great. You know who they replace them with? The Pirates and the Diamondbacks. And more games with the Marlins and more games with the Nationals. Teams that they can beat, right? I picked the Red Sox to be under 76.5 wins the other day, but maybe I should reconsider. More games with the Nationals is a good thing. More games with the Marlins is generally a good thing. The Reds, the Pirates, the A's, all these teams, they're guaranteed to see, and they're going to see more. That is good. So I am all for it. I am all for it. Buster, the one thing Buster's right about, I'll give him this. He says that you're not going to be able to come back in the division as easy. He's right about that. Right? If you're the Red Sox and you're 13 games out on June 1st, well, in the past, you could say you had a shot. Right? You could say you had a shot because, oh, hey, we got a bunch of series with the division, a bunch of series with the Angels or with the Yankees, with the Blue Jays. You don't have that anymore. So it is harder to come back, but I also think it's harder to get down. Text says, for Reds fans, the season is over before pitchers and catchers report. At least you have the Bengals. That's what I would say. If you are a Reds fan, you are probably also a Bengals fan. I also asked Buster about why Michael Wacha does not have a new team yet this offseason after being pretty good for the Red Sox last year.
Yeah, I suspect, and I don't know for sure, that, coming off the last season, that he is looking to cash in. He's been a consistent pitcher. Someone, this, when the Tampa Bay Rays identified him a couple of years ago, that probably gave you a sign that, yeah, they see something in him. But his injury history is daunting. There's no doubt about it. And so I think there probably is separation between his expectations of his next contract, his agent's expectations versus what teams are willing to pay.
Okay. I did hear, to Buster's point, that Wacha wants a multi-year deal. I did not hear about the money, but I heard he wants a multi-year deal. And I am sure at 31 years old, with that injury history, I'm sure that is tough for teams to guarantee. I wish the Red Sox could call him. The Red Sox can't call him. I said to Buster they should a half an hour ago. The more I thought about it through the commercial break, they really can't. I wish they could. The Red Sox have 6 starters as it sits right now. Chris Sale, James Paxton, Garrett Whitlock, Nick Pivetta, Corey Kluber, Brian Bayo. They've got 6 starters as it sits right now. As it is, you have one too many. I wish they could call Waka. He was 11-2 last year with a 3.22 ERA. He did get hurt, but he was good when he pitched. I wish they could call him, but I get why Waka wouldn't even answer the phone. He's like, you already got 6. I had a good year. I want to be a starter. And you don't really have room for him. Now, maybe to Buster's point, guy gets injured in the World Baseball Classic for another team, Waka gets called instantly. Heck, maybe the Red Sox end up with an injury. Every single starter the Red Sox have has a question mark. Sale and Paxton are health-related. Kluber's health-related. Pavetta is in the World Baseball Classic, so you don't know about how he's going to come out of that. And Bayo is so young. So maybe the Red Sox end up being able to call Waka, but as it sits right now, they can't. Waka wants a guaranteed thing. The Red Sox can't give it to him. And finally, I asked Buster about the Red Sox win total, over under 76.5. I took the under the other day. TC took the over yesterday. Buster, break the tie.
You know, if you held a gun to my head and said, look, you got to take the over or the under, I take the under, and here's why. And you and I have talked about this. If they struggle in the first 3 or 4 months, I think because of the nature of the players on their team, the contract situation, I think they'll be poised to pivot relatively quickly.
So I said the under the other day. Today I'm kind of waffling a little bit because of the balanced schedule. But I do agree with Buster. I still think it's under 76.5. There will be more winnable games. I just wonder what the Red Sox are going to look like. I think the Red Sox have a lot of questions health-wise. They have a lot of ifs. I've said that, right? You're hoping that guys stay healthy, and hope is generally not a strategy. It's not a strategy that you can live by, right? 5/6 of the rotation have questions, right? I would say, and even Whitlock too has questions. All 6 of them technically have questions. So you have 6 starters, all with some form of question marks. Then Kike Hernandez now is a question mark. And Justin Turner's age is a question mark. And how could Tristan Casas do? That's a question mark. And what about Duvall? And what about Alberto Mondesi? Can these guys be healthy? If everything goes right, the Red Sox hit the over on that. I find it hard to believe that with this roster, everything's going to go right. And then I agree with Buster. I think they're going to pivot. I think they're going to trade guys. So if they get out to a lackluster start, you could see a very different team on July 1st than you saw on April 1st. So, yeah, I am going with the under as well. It is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Texter says, Waka deserves a multi-year deal, I believe. If I was a team in contention, I'd give him a 2-year deal, especially if I was a team with a pitcher's park like the Dodgers or the Padres. It really depends on the money for me, right? Like, I think Waka pitched well last year. Again, he did not pitch a full season. He went 11-2. He had a 3.2 ERA, but he did not pitch a full season. If I could get him 2 years and $21 million, $10.5 million a year, I would probably do that. But what does he want? Does he want 3 years for 45? That I wouldn't do. Does he want 2 years for 40? That I wouldn't do. I get why he doesn't want 1 year and $5 million. He pitched for 1 and 7 last year. 2 for 21, I'd probably do if I were a contending team. Right? If I'm looking around now and I'm just thinking the Orioles need a starter, they could bring in Waka. I'd make a call if I were them. Tigers, the Royals, certainly. I get Waka wants to contend. The Royals probably won't. Angels, White Sox, all these teams could be calling Waka. And I do a multi-year deal, just not at a high value. All right, let's see. John here. Since the beginning of time, we have created legend and lore to help us understand the unknown and give us hope. The groundhog deal is crazy. Mostly. Many people feel they can predict ahead a season or two by woolly bear caterpillars when the brown bears and woodchucks move into their dens or when the leaves turn. There's probably some truth to it. After 60 years in Vermont, I always chuckle because 6 weeks of winter sounds like a good deal to me. I have been to Pawtucket. Trust me, they need this. I think you mean Puxatawney, not Pawtucket, because we're talking about Pennsylvania and not Rhode Island. But the point stands. John says, basically, it's cute and innovative. Let people have their moment. That's fine. That's fine. For elementary school kids, I'm all for it. I don't think I need to be involved in Groundhog Day. And I don't think, frankly, we need CBS News updates telling us about the shadow. I don't even get it. That's the point. Like, I've been living for 33 years. I never even got it. So clearly somewhere in my life, people decided this didn't have value. But some people do. Some people do. Let's get to who's saying what.
Whoa. What did he say?
They have an expensive but totally unimpressive receiving core, and they have absolute best, at most charitable, the 9th best quarterback in their own conference.
They really said that?
Every damn thing is politics and race, and I'm losing my mind over it.
It's time for Who's Saying What on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
So yesterday we talked about the idea of Tom Brady signing the one-day contract with the Patriots. I said I wanted it to happen. Robert Kraft today, Patriots owner, said that he wants it to happen. He wants Brady to sign a one-day contract and officially retire as a member of the Patriots. Tom Curran of NBC Sports Boston thinks the Patriots already had their chance to keep Brady a Pat for life and says they blew it. He doesn't think a one-day contract's going to happen.
They didn't take it. To me, my impression and opinion is Tom Brady would say, love you guys. I'll be back for the retirement. I'll be back for the statue. I'll be back for the Patriots Hall of Fame. But don't ask me to come in and sign some symbolic contract. I wanted to do that for 3 years leading up to you ushering me out the door. Have at it.
I think Tom Brady is going to sign a one-day contract. I do. He may not want to. He may not want to. It may not be important to him, but I think he's going to do it. Robert Kraft has now said publicly, Robert Kraft was on CNN today, and Robert Kraft said, I want to sign Tom Brady to a one-day contract. Because Robert Kraft has said it, I think Tom Brady's going to do it. Right? I think it's that simple. Tom Brady values his relationship with Robert Kraft. Tom Brady doesn't have many relationships in his life, I'm sure, like the one he has with Robert Kraft. So when Robert Kraft says he wants to do something, I think that Tom Brady's going to do his best to do it. Tom Brady skipped a practice, a football practice, to go to Robert Kraft's wedding in season. That tells you how important that Robert Kraft is to Tom Brady, because Kraft wants this. I think it's going to happen. Tom Curran might be right. Tom Brady might have some resentment. He might not want to do this. He might not care. But Robert Kraft wants it, and that's why Tom Brady, I believe, is going to do it. I mean, look around. This is a sad reality, but it's a reality. Tom Brady doesn't have a wife anymore. He's not going home to a huge support system. You know where he's universally loved and has a support system? Patriots Nation. Robert Kraft. And I think he's got to recognize that, and he's got to value that. Now, I, as a fan, I want the one-day contract. I want to see it. I think people in the media, like Tom Curran, sometimes like me, we forget what it's like to be a fan. We shouldn't forget what it's like to be a fan. Fans want to see their guy with their uniform one more time. Fans want to see their guy at the podium wax poetic about their organization one more time. It would mean everything, I think, to Patriots fans if Tom Brady signed a one-day contract, held up the jersey, shook Robert Kraft's hand, went to the microphone, and talked about why the Patriots were important to him. Fans would eat it up. Fans would love it. It would be great for Brady and for Brady's connection with the fans. And because Robert Kraft wants it, I think Tom Brady does it. I think he does it. Again, if for no other reason, then Kraft is important to him. I played earlier in the news a 50-second monologue today from Kraft about Brady, in which Kraft said, I'm lucky to have had Tom Brady in my life. I am sure that Tom Brady feels the same way about Robert Kraft. And I think, like with a person you love in your family, you do everything you can to please them. I think Tom Brady's going to do it. I don't know when it will be, but I think that it will happen. Text says, Pats did whiff on getting Brady to sign a one-day deal initially with the Patriots. He doesn't mean that. Tom Curran is not saying anything about a one-day contract previously. He's saying Tom Brady wanted to stay and retire a Patriot from his playing days, and they blew that. Well, yeah, they did blow that. But now there's a chance to make some amends, and I agree. Text says, Brady, a couple of my grandkids go to Virgins. They learned a groundhog cannot predict the weather. Well, that's true. Now I feel kind of bad, though, like they popped the bubble of an elementary school student. I don't know. Again, Groundhog's Day could be for the kids. It doesn't need to be for me. It doesn't need to be for me. It is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Texter says, Brady should have stayed with the Patriots until the end. He should have taught the younger people what he did so well instead of going to Tampa, retiring there. Says that's my thought on that. So there you go. Patriots didn't want him. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. The Patriots didn't want Tom Brady at the end. So I guess he had every right. Text says you should ask Ken Squire about native Vermonters at Groundhog Day. Well, okay. Ken Squire's in his 80s. He doesn't need Groundhog Day either. Elementary school students. We'll step aside. When we come back, we'll follow up on the story we told you yesterday about the death that resulted from the fracas at the Alberg St. Albans 7th and 8th grade basketball game. A decision has been made by the school district on how to proceed. We'll talk about it next. And I have one key question I need your help with. That's next on TV.
Winter in Vermont can seem idyllic, but for those struggling to heat their homes and feed their families, it can be cold and long. Once again, the Radio Vermont Group is partnering with Capstone Community Action to help our neighbors in need. And we're asking for your help. Media coverage is underwritten in part by
Shane-Gras Truck and Trailer Repair, locally owned and operated, servicing Barrie and the surrounding area. Hunger Mountain Co-op, Stonecutters Way, Montpelier. Guy's Farm and Yard. If it eats and grows, guys can feed it. Guy'sFarmandYard.com. And Bragg Farm Sugar House and Gift Shop. Vermont crafts, gifts, specialty foods, and all things maple. BraggFarm.com.
The Radio Vermont Group urges you to help fuel your neighbors this winter. Go to fuelyourneighbors.org to donate today. Even the smallest donation can help.
Eric was way behind on his taxes.
I owed a lot of money to the IRS, almost $15,000. I tried to make payments.
The IRS wasn't satisfied with Eric's efforts, so they came after him full force.
They're coming to put a lien and a hold on all my income, my home, my car. I was just overwhelmed at what to do.
Then Eric called Optima Tax Relief.
When Optima Tax got involved, the calls would stop, the threats would stop. It was easy like 1, 2, 3.
Optima Tax Relief is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, and their team of expert tax professionals took care of Eric's problem.
I owe $15,000, and now my debt is clean. I don't owe anything.
Take Eric's advice.
If you have a tax problem, you need to call Optima Tax now.
Call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Hi, this is Anson Tebbets, co-host of For the Birds, heard Saturdays on WDEV. Each week, Chip Darmstadt and I discuss bird sightings, bird counts, and activity at your feeder. You also can listen anytime to podcasts on Apple, Google, Spotify, and Amazon Music. Join us Saturdays at 7:30 and 12:15 for the Birds. 28 years on WDEV AM and FM and streaming at WDEVradio.com.
Think you know sports better than Brady does? Text in with your thoughts at 802-585-3026.
This is Freddie Coleman of ESPN, and you're listening to Brady Farkas Show right here on WDEV and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show right here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. 10 minutes away from high school basketball, and I want to follow up on the story we told you last night, right? So we told you yesterday that a fight broke out the other day, I believe it was on Tuesday, at the Alberg and St. Albans middle school basketball game. And we told you that a 60-year-old man ended up dead after that fight. We know now that that man walked away from the fight, drove, and then at some point needed medical attention. We don't know if his death was caused by the fight or just brought something else to the surface. That's not for me to speculate. But that is the updated story, at least on his death. Well, now, in response to all of this, the Grand Isle Supervisory Union has said this: no fans will be allowed to attend home games in the Grand Isle Supervisory Union after that man died. So, in the entire district, Alberg, North Hero, South Hero, and there's another community in there of which I'm forgetting right now, there are no fans that will be allowed at games for the rest of the season. One, I find it unfair that the entire district is punished. I don't want your thoughts on this. 802-585-3026. I feel bad that the entire district is being punished as opposed to just fans at Alberg, right? Kids playing games at North Hero, kids playing games at South Hero. I believe they should be able to have their parents in attendance, their family members in attendance. That's number one. But number two, I have a critical question about this that I really do need some help on from the text line. My question is, do these middle school teams, do the road teams, do they all take buses to games? And the reason why I ask is this. Now, when I grew up, my middle school teams were not attached to the high school. They were just town teams. So everybody's parents drove everybody to the game. In Vermont, I know there is a lot of this where middle school teams are connected to the high school. So I'm asking if middle school teams get bused to their games like high school teams do. I know in central Vermont, it's fairly customary to have middle school teams get bused. The reason why I ask is this. Alberg is really far away, right? The Grand Isle district in general is far away and it's hard to get to. If students all take the bus, right? If these opponents all take the bus to these games, then I am okay with fans not being at them, right? Kids go to their home, kid from St. Albans, right? Team from St. Albans goes to a spot in St. Albans, gets on a bus, goes over to play Alberg, gets on a bus, goes home, parents pick them up. That I'm okay with. What would bother me is if parents have to drive kids to games and now you're telling them, hey, you're going to drive 45 minutes to get to your game. And now you can't enter the gym and now you need to drive around for 2 hours or get lunch or go shopping or whatever. That I would not be okay with because that is a massive inconvenience to parents and families. I'm asking the question because I don't know the answer. And the answer shapes how I feel about it. I do not believe that the entire district's parents should be punished for what happened. Okay, that is number one. If you're playing in North Hero or South Hero, I think there should be parents allowed at games. Those parents, those fans did not commit infractions. But as far as Alberg, I'm okay with no fans at those games for either Alberg or their opponents. But I want to know if kids are being bused to these games. If they are, it's easier to do this If parents have to drive, that is a massive inconvenience, and I would say is not a fair policy. Again, in central Vermont, I know that middle school teams, a lot of them, most of them, get bused to games. I do not know for northern Vermont how it is handled. So if somebody has some insight, 802-585-3026. Texter says, Brady, I agree with you. Why punish the entire district and the friends and families? You should just increase the vigilance when necessary. So that is what I would say as well. I would agree on what that texter just said. Again, I'm still waiting on somebody with the answer on middle school teams and kind of how they are transported to games. Because that shapes kind of the rest of how I feel. It is, though, as we said yesterday, it is a tragic story. I still am not over this, right? 2 days now have gone by, and I just can't believe that we are here. That we're at a point where 7th and 8th grade kids can't have their families at games because they're families and fans that cannot be trusted. I can't believe that. I can't believe a man is dead because of conduct that happened at a middle school game. I watched the video, probably the same video that a lot of you have seen at this point. It is shocking. There are players involved, 7th and 8th grade players involved in this fracas. There are young, what appear to be teenage fans leading portions of the fracas. There are adults engaging with teenagers. This whole thing is despicable. And the end result is tragic. We've got to be better. We have got to be better. It's the Brady Farkas Show, WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Brent Curtis in company. Brent Curtis will be with us here in just a couple of moments. A couple of minutes, I should say. We do have high school basketball again coming up between Montpelier and People's Academy. I do want to get to one take. I want to transition from this story, even as hard as it is, to one of the more crazy takes that, frankly, I think I've ever heard. Adam Jones is a new radio host at WEEI in Boston. He says he respects Tom Brady less because he's retiring. Listen to this one.
Brady doesn't suck. You put Brady on the Niners, he could win a Super Bowl. You put Brady on the Dolphins, he could contend for a Super Bowl. You kick Bill out of here and you bring him back here, maybe they're contending for a Super Bowl. They would have had a much better record last year if Brady was here than Mac. So I think less of Brady. He might be leaving another championship on the table. For what? To spend time with his kids?
Okay.
So Adam Jones respects Brady less for retiring because he is leaving a potential championship on the line. That one I don't get. Like, are we serious right now? This is where we're going with this. Tom Brady had nothing left to play for. If he wanted to play and it was easy for him to play, then fine. But he had nothing left to play for. So what if he potentially left another championship behind? Does that even really matter? Like, he's already got the legacy. He's already got the resume. He's already proven everything. Like, if Adam Jones wants him to stick around, then he just wants him to stick around because he enjoys watching him play. That seems like a very stupid take to me. And Adam Jones seems like a smart guy. He just got the job at WEEI. He seems like a pretty smart guy. That one is not a smart take. Like, just be happy for the guy that he... just be happy for the guy that he's retiring. Like, he had nothing left to prove. He had nothing left to do. He doesn't need to keep playing. That one seems to be kind of an all-timer for me on the stupid take board. I don't get it. I respect Tom Brady more for walking away, frankly. I didn't think he had it in him. Tom Brady gave up his kids and his family to play football. I thought that was selfish, right? I thought Tom Brady should have walked away before and tried to save his family. I thought what Brady did by playing last year was selfish, and I think this year is a good recognition that he didn't need to do that anymore. So I have more respect for him that he walked away when he didn't have to. Life became easier for him now to play, right? He didn't have the wife knocking on the bedroom door saying, "Are you retiring today, Tom?" It became easier for Tom to play now, right? With the marriage done, he had total freedom to do whatever he wanted. I have respect for him more that he said, you know what? Maybe I did make a mistake. I don't know if he feels that way, but he just said to himself, look, I don't need to do this anymore. I have more respect for him. He doesn't suck. He didn't need to walk away. He had the permission and the green light to play. I think it takes a lot of self-awareness and reflection to retire under those circumstances, right? Tom Brady's a bachelor. He could do what he wanted. The family did not matter anymore. He blew the family out for his own wishes. He didn't need to listen to anybody else anymore. He didn't need anybody else's opinion. He could have played this thing for another 5 years if he wanted to. But I think I respect Tom Brady more because he walked away when now he didn't have to. Tex says, this guy's trying to be Skip Bayless Jr. That's the weakest fake contrarian take I've heard in some time. So interesting stuff there. Good text as well. Ray over in Whitehall, I assume that's New York, has a little bit of baseball in him. He says, I love the balanced schedule. I love the Dodgers. Seeing them play the Red Sox every year will be a good thing. I took my family to a Dodgers-Red Sox game a few years ago. It was great. I like the balanced schedule. And I'm getting so excited for spring training. Even though the Red Sox we don't think they're going to be very good, I am so excited for spring training. I'm curious about how people are feeling. I got just, 2 minutes left here, but I'm curious if people are as excited about spring training as I am. I can't wait for baseball to be back. I cannot wait for baseball to be back. I love it. I miss it. It's been 3 months since we watched it. I need it back in my life. And the Red Sox will have an interesting camp. There will be things to watch in Red Sox camp. There will be things of interest. Watching Tristan Casas, watching Brian Bayo, seeing the health of Sale, seeing the health of Paxton. That's going to be important. They're going to lose a bunch of guys for the World Baseball Classic. We won't get to see Yoshida very much. That's going to stink. But we are going to get to see Sale and Paxton and Bayo and Duvall. A lot of the new guys we want to see, we are going to see. Turner. There are things to watch in Red Sox spring training, and I will be fascinated to watch them when the time comes. So, Brady Farkas show here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Tex says, much respect to Tom Brady. He realized what he lost, his family, his wife, everything, and he realized he lost that and not another Super Bowl shot. So, I agree. I think the respecting Tom Brady less take is weak. Tom Brady did not have to. At this point, he had freed himself up. He had total carte blanche to do whatever he wanted. Giselle was gone. Her badgering him was out of the picture. Tom Brady could have kept playing forever if he wanted to, with no repercussions and nobody but himself to answer to. I think it's more respectful to walk away when you don't have to. It is the Brady Farkas show on DEB. Texter also says, love baseball. Can't wait for it to be back. All right. That's going to do it for us here. High school basketball is coming up next. It's Montpelier and People's Academy. It's girls hoops. Brent Curtis is on the call. We will send you out there next here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Transitioning out of the military, it's difficult. Just about everything around you changes. I would get phone calls that brothers were dying.